What's up, guys? Welcome to the Aspect Pod, episode 2. Today, we got a couple things we want to get into, but first, we have two people who were not on last episode that I think deserve an introduction. Alex, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Alex. I'm pretty insightful and know a lot about the NFL, NBA, and MLB, and I feel like I could give good coverage on that.
All right, perfect. Andrew?
What's up, I'm Andrew. I know a lot about the NFL, but I'm an NBA casual.
All right, that's fine. Today, we're going to try and get through some free agency frenzy and Colin's Corner, some reruns from last week, and then we're going to transition into a new segment called NBA Newsroom. And then after that, another new segment called Statistics Shootout. And if you're curious about what those are, listen, wait, and see. So for free agency frenzy, got a couple things that have happened since the last time that we have hit the record button for the Aspect Pod. So let's get into it right now. Shaq Barrett went to the Dolphins. Derrick Henry went to the Ravens, but we talked about that last week. T. Higgins got the non-exclusive franchise tag. However, he has requested a trade. Patrick Queen went to the Steelers. Joe Mixon and Jeff Okudah went to the Texans. Mac Jones and Gabe Davis went to the Jaguars. Mariota went to the Commanders, which is interesting because Sam Howell went to the Seahawks. Calvin Ridley to the Titans. Keenan Allen went to the Bears for nothing. Deontay Johnson went to the Panthers. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Levante David re-signed to the Bucks. And probably what's going to be the most harped on thing this episode in terms of NFL free agency, Justin Fields has gone to the Steelers, but not because he was forced to. He chose to go. He had 4 options, and he chose the Steelers, and he's not even the starting quarterback. I think the perfect person to open up about that would definitely be Colin.
So, yeah, I just want to start with Fields had the opportunity to go to like 4 or 5 other teams. The Bears let him pick what team he wanted to go to, and he turned down spots like the Jets behind Aaron Rodgers, potentially a definite starting spot in New England. And we don't know the full teams, but I bet you New York Giants might have been in there. And he decided to sit behind Russell Wilson, knowing he was sitting, right? There was no guarantee he was starting anything. And he decided to go there. I just kind of don't really understand that move on Fields' part.
See, I just don't understand why. I'll rephrase I'll say exactly what you just said. I don't get why he did this. I don't know what was so appealing about the Steelers. It's not like the Steelers have all these huge names and huge blockbuster players. Like, what was their record last year? They had a winning record, like barely. I think they went 9-8, 10-7.
The whole division had a winning record. And then I get you gained Patrick Queen on the defensive side, but you just traded away Deontay Johnson.
I just don't get it. We've seen that he is like he's a starting quarterback caliber NFL quarterback, no doubt in my mind. And I said it last year. I said it last week. But as a Jets fan, maybe he should go and sit behind Aaron Rodgers, be groomed into that starting quarterback underneath a vet who knows how to win, knows how to play in the NFL. But I didn't think that starting quarterback would be Russell Wilson. He won a Super Bowl 10 years ago, lost a Super Bowl 9 years ago, and hasn't made a playoff run since. I don't know if that's the guy that if the Steelers were thinking, hey, franchise quarterback opportunity, I don't know if Russell Wilson is the guy that you want mentoring your franchise quarterback.
I mean, Fields said on Twitter, thank you for the last 3 years, whatever. But he's just been in Germany and Netherlands, I've seen on his Instagram story, working out like football camps. It doesn't even seem like he cares.
Well,
Hasn't done anything, hasn't said anything, hasn't even actually signed the contract with the Steelers yet.
Okay, well,
I don't know if he's taking this seriously.
maybe he doesn't care about leaving Chicago, which I get. Chicago screwed him over. The last 3 years you said? Chicago, besides signing DJ Moore, they have not given this man help. He came into this league and he wasn't the most overhyped quarterback, but over the past 3 years he's earned a lot of respect, and that's why he's such a big name this offseason. No doubt in my mind, he is a starting quarterback caliber player. But the issue comes when he doesn't think that he's that starting quarterback caliber. Despite him being the backup option, this is a fact, he is more likely to win the NFL MVP award than Russell Wilson, who's starting over him.
I do want to add, it came out if he plays 51% or more snaps, the Bears do get a 4th-round pick instead of 6, but I don't really think that's going to happen. But also, if you do look, they've gotten more weapons for someone who's not in the NFL than they did for Fields himself, right? And even if you go back to like the 12-4 Bears back when they had Trubisky, they still had Tariq Cohen, Jordan Howard, Allen Robinson, right? They had
Cody Parkey, double doink.
But it doesn't matter. Yes, the defense is incredible, but offensive weapons. Fields had who? He had Jimmy Graham for a year. He had
DJ Moore
DJ Moore for a year. Like, come on.
You know, you were talking about fourth round picks when it came to Justin Fields, and I would like to harp on another trade that blew my mind. Pro Bowl wide receiver Keenan Allen from the Chargers went to the Chicago Bears for a fourth round pick and nothing else.
Well, I mean, he did say he didn't want to reconstruct his contract with the Chargers, but I mean, they got rid of Mike Williams. You're kind of screwing Herbert over it, essentially, right? He is nobody to throw to. He's a receiver who can't catch the ball and is one of the biggest busts of last year's draft. I need Andrew to speak on this because it's his division, right? He's a Raiders fan. I want to know what he thinks about the Chargers doing all this.
Well, I think the Chargers are just putting themselves down. You get Harbaugh in there. You're looking at a new system, new head coach, but you take away Justin Herbert's only weapons that he had before and leaving him with a receiver who can't catch and maybe a decent receiver in Joshua Palmer. I don't believe he's as good as Mike Williams or Keenan Allen. No one probably does. I really just don't know what the Chargers are doing.
Look, has Keenan Allen been not producing? No. But do you think, Colin, Andrew, Jayden, what do you think the Chargers should have asked for?
A fourth round pick. He's missed 11 games in the past 2 seasons. I mean, he's not on the field for me. Why am I going to give up high draft capital?
Because he had a great season last year and he was a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And in the mid to late 2010s, he was that guy for the friggin' Chargers.
Yeah, but if you're not available on the field, I don't want you.
He was
but
available
last
on the field
season he had a great season.
Yeah, but
he played 13 games. He played 10 the year before. He played 16 the year before. That's 12 games in 3 years.
But in my honest opinion, though, we all have seen when Keenan Allen is on the field, it's like a different Chargers team. You're right. When it comes to Justin Herbert and having to deal with, Mike Williams and Josh Palmer on their own, I mean, there's no wonder why the Chargers have 12 fans. But when Keenan Allen is on the field, it's not like there's going to be like a crazy turnout like he's some Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson type player, but he's that solid wide receiver that when Mike Williams sucks and Josh Palmer can't catch, maybe he's that guy that Justin Herbert looks on as old reliable, and you just threw away old reliable for a fourth round pick.
Not even that, though. You lose Eckler, you lose Gerald Everett.
Yes.
He has no
You've lost such key players, and you're not even getting much back for it in return. Like Andrew said, what are the Chargers doing? Look, a couple years ago, 2019-ish, I said that the Chargers would make a very, very deep run at the Super Bowl, and then Derwin James went out. And since then, they've barely even scratched playoffs. This was not the solution. You don't sell your whole team just because you had 1, maybe 2 not so good seasons. And you can't even say maybe 2 because they made the playoffs that 1 year. So
better idea. You don't sign J.C. Jackson, have him tear his Achilles, and then you trade him the next season to the team that you signed him from. You don't do that either.
I don't get it. So look, I'm not in an NFL front office. I don't know what goes on. I'm sure there's more intricate workings than what we're talking about. But from what I'm seeing at face value, this is a stupid front office decision. And one more thing that I'd like to bring up just before we transition into NBA Newsroom, before we transition into Colin's Corner, I apologize. Mariota to the Commanders and Sam Howell to the Seahawks.
I'd love to hear Alex's take, as I do know he's a Seahawks fan.
Yes.
I'd love to hear him and Jayden, both 2 Seahawks fans, what they think about Sam Howell.
I'm not sure about it because at this point, that pretty much confirms that the Seahawks are not probably all in on J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix, some of the guys who would have been available at their pick 16. And I guess they're just trying to go for a guy who's a bit cheaper, who still has about 2 years left on his deal. I'm not a Sam Howell believer, even after we trade for him. I know their O-line was not very good, and I get that. But still, I'm still scratching my head about it. I still don't know exactly why, because all they did was just downgrade their picks and then just get Sam Howell. So I'm still confused about it.
I'd rather draft the quarterback, but I think it'll be okay. I need to see how much he plays first, if Geno gets hurt or if Geno does bad, and we'll see how he actually plays. But I don't know. I got to see it.
Some free agency moves from this season have been nothing short of exciting, interesting. But then there are some moves that have been straight up stupid. Really, really stupid. And I think we covered a couple of them today. I think that was great for free agency frenzy. So I'm going to now ask Colin to open up the door into Colin's corner.
All right, so starting today, I do have a couple notes written down. Seeing a lot on NBA Twitter, NBA Instagram, talking about Demar DeRozan. We know Demar has had a couple good seasons, past couple years with the Bulls. So overtime points in a single season, Kobe is number 1 with 70, Kyrie is 2 with 55, and DeMar DeRozan this season has 53 points in overtime. Do we think, and as we transition to the NBA, DeMar DeRozan needs to get out of Chicago? I understand he's 33, 26,000 points, potential Hall of Famer. Does he need to move on from the Chicago team that really has done nothing with him, Zach LaVine, and the rest of the team?
I think both sides need to break up from each other. I'm gonna be honest. Like DeRozan, I think, that one shot he had just a few days ago was huge to force overtime. Like I honestly like the whole OT stat was really nice. I think he should be in consideration for clutch player of the year. I don't know who else would be up there. But, like you said, he's old. He's on a big contract. And right now the Bulls are in like horrible purgatory between the fact that they're not good enough to even like crack the top 6 seeds to avoid the play-in. Yet on the other hand, they're also competitive just enough with guys like Vucevic and DeRozan, where they're not getting a top pick to even start a rebuild. Like your young guys right now, like Dalen Terry or like Patrick Williams, are probably not getting the roles they need to fully develop into the stars you want them to be. Because right now, after making those big signings and trades, the Bulls have like forced their young guys to try and be role players when like in general in the NBA, it's very hard for young guys to develop when their roles start off so small. So because of that, honestly, like if I'm a Bulls fan, I want to blow it up. Like if it means being bad for the next few years, I'll take it because it's a lot better, I would argue, than being the 10th seed just perpetually. I don't know if anyone has anything to add to that, but
They should have ended it. They should have traded, Vucevic, DeRozan in the trade deadline. I don't know why they didn't do that. I don't know why they just blow it out in the trade deadline, try to get something out of them. But now you're kind of left with them for the end of the season, and obviously Chicago's not going anywhere. So I mean, Chicago's front office just needs to, restart. Just they really need to think things through again.
I think they need to fully commit to rebuild, and I don't know why they're worried about it. You have multiple guys on that roster who are role players on championship contender teams. Like, for example, you have Andre Drummond, you have Alex Caruso, you even have like Javon Carter. These are like players who could play significant roles on championship contenders, but they do not mesh well together as a team trying to do whatever they're trying to do to make the playoffs, I guess. But they're getting bounced in the first round, even if they do make the playoffs. I really don't understand.
Drummond needs to start. I don't know, like if he was on any other team, really, like for example, like Golden State. Like imagine Andre Drummond on a Golden State team where they need a center like that. They would be so much better. Like I feel like Andre Drummond, he's just wasting time on the bench. He averages like 50 minutes a game, and he's averaging like double doubles every time he's out there. So I feel like some of the players on the Bulls roster, they're just wasting their time there.
And I think what makes it worse is the Bulls are in such a bad financial situation. Like LaVine is obviously out for this year, so that just makes their competitiveness so much worse. But after this year, LaVine is still locked up for another 2 years, getting paid nearly 45 million. Vucevic was extended last year when, he probably should have been let walk at 33 years old. DeRozan is a free agent though, however. I think, in an ideal world, you do look at a sign and trade, but those are not the easiest to come by. But if I'm the Bulls, like I'm not pushing hard to re-sign DeRozan. He deserves to go to like a contending team. I don't know what team that would be. I know names in the past that have been connected to DeMar have like, been the Lakers, because the Lakers, of course, are going to be tied to everyone. But, I don't know what team that looks like. Maybe in some fantasy world there's a Toronto homecoming. But right now, DeRozan, yeah, he deserves a ring, in my opinion. He's one of those guys that I say deserve a ring. And the Bulls are in a really tough position that blowing it up seems like the best option to get out of it.
Colin, anything else for Colin's corner?
No, I think that's it. I think we can fully transition to the NBA with.
All right, Jacob. So would you like to explain your topic, NBA Newsroom?
Yeah, so NBA Newsroom is just gonna cover just, maybe one or two, depending on how in depth we want to get into it, maybe three big storylines that I feel are going on in the NBA. Simple as that. Anyone wants to jump in, give their discussions, give their thoughts, I'll do that as well. But my first thing, really quickly, I don't think this is something I have too many thoughts on because it is a 10-day contract. But former All-Star point guard, fourth in MVP voting, Isaiah Thomas, just a day ago was signed to a 10-day contract by the Phoenix Suns, a team he was on way back when he was, just entering the league. But he's back in the NBA on a 10-day, albeit, but he's back in the NBA. I don't know if anyone has any takeaways from that. I don't think it's gonna move the needle for the Suns anyways, because they are still in the play-in. But I think as a fan, it's a nice sight to see. I don't know how anyone else feels about that.
It doesn't really matter for like the Phoenix Suns. Like he's not gonna play in the playoffs. They signed him a bit too late. I think it's just for publicity.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Again, it's a 10-day. The last time he played was 2021-22, and even then that was less than like 30 combined games across like three teams. There was one game he put on a Mavericks jersey. But about the Suns in general, about it not moving the needle, despite their roster, their quote unquote big three, they're currently in the eighth seed, tied with the Mavericks, who are also tied in a three-way between the Kings at 6, the Mavericks at 7, and the Suns at 8. The West play-in right now is looking like, if the playoffs started today, the Mavericks, Suns at 7 and 8, and then the Warriors, Lakers, who are tied at 9 and 10. It looks like those two teams are probably going to stay there because they're 3 games behind the 8th seed, but also 3.5 games ahead of the 11th seed. So they're probably not moving on. I guess just to feel the waters a little bit, if the play-in started now, do any of you guys have predictions about like what that would look like? Who's taking the last two spots in the West?
Yeah, Lakers and Phoenix are
Phoenix?
taking it, just because, it's LeBron. And I don't think the Suns are that bad of a team to not make it past the play-in. Like, I know your team isn't that deep, it's just basically the 3 stars plus, I guess, Grayson Allen. But I feel like those 3 guys can squeeze through the Dallas Mavericks in the play-in.
Yeah, and I will say Grayson Allen's one of the league's top 3-point shooters this year. I do agree with you about the Suns. I probably would take the Suns over the Mavericks as well in one immediate game because in that game they're probably going to be playing the top guys like 40 minutes anyways. But I do think the playing in general is something I've always had a hard time predicting just because it's literally one game. I think, it being March, it's pretty fitting to mention just a little bit, but March Madness I feel like is similar energy. Like it's so variable. So many things can happen in just one game that the 10th seed could end up being in the playoffs, which has happened before. I think to preface, just to be transparent, I am a Warriors fan. I'm from California. Between the Warriors and Lakers, I have to check my bias here, but I might lean towards the Lakers just a little bit. I don't know how much I trust the Warriors' rotations and their defense on a night-to-night basis. I've seen some great games. I've also seen some horrible games, and that's not really the type of energy you want against a guy like LeBron and AD. AD did have an eye injury recently, so we'll see how that looks like in the near future. Does anyone have any thoughts on this? I think the West is really competitive and it's really fun to see.
As far as the West goes, I'm definitely not a LeBron stan in any means, but I personally believe if you have LeBron on your team, you're gonna be in somewhat contention. So I definitely believe the Lakers are gonna take up one of those spots. And the other, I don't know how much I trust Luka in the playoffs, or at least not necessarily in the playoffs, but like towards the end of the season. It hasn't really gone well for them. I mean, they had a great win today against the Nuggets. I think it'll be the Mavs and the Lakers, personally.
Imagine Lakers. Okay, I can definitely see a world with that too. I think, despite them being the 10th seed, Lakers might be the team that I have the most confidence in out of all of the four, even though they have to win 2 games just to get into the 8th seed. I mean, LeBron is LeBron. He's nearly 40, and he's like, not to glaze the king or whatever, but like he's still an all-star. It's kind of crazy to see. I don't know if Jayden, do you still want to add on to this? I know you were dealing with something.
Yeah, in terms of the play in general, I think it's going to be really cool to see, or if it stands or if it stays the same, I think it'll be really cool to see Luca versus Booker and LeBron versus Steph. I think that's some cool matchups. I think it'll be great for the NBA with the play-in tournament.
So I do want to bring up how, and I think this is more like an open-ended. Anyone else can jump in. I think the Rockets definitely had a good chance before the Sengun injury, and I didn't check to see how long that was. If he's out for the season, you can let me know. But do we think the Rockets still have a shot? Because they're only, I believe, 2.5 games behind the 10 seed.
It's wraps.
Do you think so?
Şengün is their best player. Şengün
He's
is their
out for the
best player,
season
and now
too,
he's out
yeah.
for the season. I mean, who are you gonna replace him? Jock Landale. I mean, he's been pretty much mediocre on that backup center spot. So I mean, you just took away your best player and just replaced it with a mediocre player. Yeah, no chance.
Yeah, I'll have to correct that. It's actually 3.5 games, so I'm a lot less confident about, them getting in there. Especially because it means they have to, upend one of the other two Western Conference teams. Like I have their schedule pulled up really quickly. Nearing the end of this month, they have a set of games against the Mavericks twice. They play the Magic, who have been underratedly good. They play the Heat. They play the Thunder once to close out the season, as well as the Clippers. Yeah, they're playing some tough matchups, so I'm not really betting my money on the Rockets. I think I can transition to the next thing. Talking about the Mavericks, I think I want to narrow in on one of their newer additions at the trade deadline. The trade deadline they sent, I forget the exact details, but they had Rashawn Holmes at the beginning of the year and they flipped him to Washington to pick up Daniel Gafford. From March 5th through Thursday, just this past Thursday, Daniel Gafford, of all people, made 33 straight shots, which is 2 shots short of the record set by Wilt Chamberlain in 1967. But he made 33 straight shots, and then the first shot that he missed afterwards was literally 30 seconds into the game on Thursday against the Thunder. It was a putback attempt that he just hit off the backboard. It was a weak layup attempt. My thing to add about this, not really a question for anybody, if anyone wants to add anything afterwards, but I bring up this Daniel Gafford thing because I think Daniel Gafford has been an underrated pickup, especially for the Mavs playoff efforts. Between his rim protection and his vertical spacing, I think he's a perfect fit next to Luka, especially out of that pick and roll. Because the Mavericks take a lot of threes, but because of that, they're spacing already, and Luka being able to find those shooters, guys like Kyrie, Maxi Kleber, Josh Green, finding these shooters.
Hardaway.
And Hardaway, exactly. Who's like honestly close like 40% from three, if I remember correctly. Daniel Gafford gives him such another dimension. We know how good of a player and a passer Luka is, gives him that lob threat. And I was watching the Warriors Mavericks game the other day, and Daniel Gafford put up 7 blocks on the Warriors, which is disgusting as a Warriors fan. But it does look really good for the Mavericks, especially their defense. I think a strong rim protector has been something they've been lacking, especially going all the way back to like the Tyson Chandler days. I guess if everyone wants to add just how they feel about Daniel Gafford on the Mavericks and how the Mavericks look as a threat in the playoffs, definitely want to open the door to that. Go ahead.
I have one thing to say. I don't think they're gonna do in the playoff. Oh shit! Wait, I can't.
You can curse. You can
I
curse
think
in
it's
the show.
does.
You can curse. I just bleep it out.
Oh, I don't think they're gonna do anything in the playoffs, like at all.
I agree with that.
I have. So this team kind of reminds me of how the 2018 Houston Rockets were kind of constructed. You had James Harden as the primary scorer plus the playmaker kind of, or Chris Paul kind of, but you have Luka and Kyrie now, where Kyrie's like a scorer, but you have Luka as the playmaker also, and then you have your lob threats, which is Lively and Gafford, and plus you have 3-point shooting. I feel like this team is just kind of reminds me of the 2018 Rockets, where you had lob threats, 3-point shooting, and then playmakers. I feel like this team is just really underrated, but I just feel they're gonna fall short in the play-in.
Yeah, I think let's say best case for them, they were to win their 7-8 matchup in the play-in. If they're the 7th seed and the playoffs started today, they would be playing the Nuggets, who are currently the 2 seed and a half game behind the Thunder. I think, yeah, I agree with Jayden. I don't know if necessarily they're not going to do anything, but I think they're a dark horse team to beat the Nuggets. I know the Nuggets are the defending champions. My prediction would be probably similar to anyone else's, that they're probably not making to the second round, but I do think they would give the Nuggets some struggle. I think the Nuggets would win, but it wouldn't necessarily be easy just because of how strong of a team and a well-oiled offensive machine the Nuggets are. Daniel Gafford is no Rudy Gobert or Evan Mobley, right? But he does move that needle. I think I definitely see the comparison to like Clint Capella, right, on the Rockets in 2018. How does everyone else feel about the Nuggets against the Mavericks, or just the Nuggets in general? Like, do we feel like are we taking the Nuggets or the field in a potential NBA championship?
Nuggets got it in the championship again. They're going back to back.
Yeah, Nuggets easily.
Nuggets, yeah. I remember they were playing the Celtics a way back a little while ago, and Nuggets looked really good. So if that's a potential finals matchup, then yeah, I think the Nuggets look really strong to go back to back.
I don't know why you guys are sleeping on the Timberwolves. I think you're all fake. I think they are the best team in the West. You know, they're a game and a half about back from 2 or the 1 seed. I think they can go deep. Anthony Edwards, Cat when he's healthy. I think they're a good team. I don't know what you guys think, but just wanted to add that in there.
It's over for the Timberwolves. They don't have enough offensive firepower to keep up with teams like Denver. I mean, they just lost Towns. I think he's going to come back in the playoffs still, but I don't know where Minnesota will be when he does come back. I don't know how Towns will be when he does come back. I feel like offense is really just Towns and like Edwards, I guess, and like the other guys. I don't think they have enough offense to really just compete in the playoffs.
Also, I think historically Rudy Gobert has been run off the floor in the playoffs, especially when we start going 5 out. Like someone's exposing him, especially if it's like the Nuggets with Jokic out there making the play that he always does. I don't think Rudy Gobert is matching up against someone like that. If it's like the Thunder, I could see it. They're young, they're really bad on the glass, but I don't see a team taking over the Nuggets right now. I don't know what anyone else thinks about that, but
Yeah, I don't think the Timberwolves could take down a lot of the teams in the playoffs. In the regular season, they've been great, but playoff time, it's a whole different. I don't know. I'm not sold on them or by them. It's not good.
So are we taking a Kings upset? Let's say if it ended today, are we taking the Kings upset over the Timberwolves?
I think it depends on Cat's injury, in my opinion. I think if Cat comes out looking good, I'd probably take Cat, like especially that's a bonus matchup. But again, the Kings are gonna make it competitive, I would say. So, it could be a 6-7 game series if it's the Timberwolves Kings.
Y'all are sleeping on Sabonis. Sabonis, I'm pretty sure, will be the best player in that series. He's one of the most extremely underrated players. He's basically Nikola Jokic, except maybe he scoring's a bit down than Jokic, but Sabonis, I'm pretty sure, is the best player in that series, and I think that Sabonis will take over in that series, and yeah, Timberwolves don't stand a chance.
I think it's a bonus, and also Ant would take over too. I don't know who on the Kings is guarding Anthony Edwards. Like, Huerta's probably the matchup, but like Ant's coming up there too.
Harrison Barnes,
Not
Keegan Murray is guarding Anthony Edwards. As Keegan Murray is a really
Don't
good
sleep on my boy
ISO
Keon
defender.
Ellis. Don't sleep on my boy
All right,
Keon
bro.
Ellis. Keon Ellis
Who
is
is
tough.
Keon
Keon Ellis, bro.
Keon Ellis is annoying, bro, but he is tough.
Malik Monk is just better. I'm not even gonna start.
All right, so that's gonna put a wrap on NBA Newsroom, and we're gonna open up with another news segment on the Aspect Podcast called Statistics Shootout. Basically, Xavier gets one challenger, varies by the episode, to beat him in Statistics Shootout. And what Statistics Shootout is, ESPN likes to come up with some very random facts sometimes. For example, Anthony Edwards is the first player to drop 40 points on a Tuesday night on the 23rd of the month after eating a bagel for breakfast. Very random stat, and Xavier is getting a challenger this week in the form of Jacob. Each of them will give us 3 facts, and we'll all take a vote on who we think gave the craziest facts. And we're going to go through this throughout the duration of the show, as in like all the episodes. And, we're just going to see if Xavier can hold his own in Statistics Shootout or not. So, Xavier, why don't you give us your first fact or statistic?
Okay, so we are talking about baseball here. So, Hall of Fame closing pitcher on the Yankees, Mariano Rivera. Crazy stat: more people have walked on the moon, 12 people, than have scored an earned run against Mariano Rivera, which are 11 runs in the playoffs. So more people walked on the moon than runs that were scored on Mariano Rivera in the playoffs.
Okay. That was a pretty good one. I thought that was okay. I feel like that's probably been a known fact. Like I didn't know that, but I feel like other people might have. But I thought that was pretty good. All right,
I do
Jacob.
want to note. Wait. I do want to note. I don't think a person's walked on the moon in like 50 years.
Is that a matter of humanity sucks at like advancing to the moon, or is that a matter?
Mariano Rivera is good at baseball.
Okay. All right, Jacob, fire away.
All right. So my stat is, you'll probably guess, an NBA one. I just want to throw out a name here. Alfred Payton, probably top 5 hair of all time in the NBA, Magic legend, has 17 career triple doubles. Just some other names here. Stephen Curry has 13 career triple doubles, while guys like Anthony Davis has 3 and Kawhi has 2. So Alfred Payton, arguably up there with Russell Westbrook, Oscar Robertson, Jokic, as one of the best to ever do it.
I think the way that we'll do this, and for the record, for the listeners, this is totally spontaneous. I think that we go based on the rounds. So, like, that was round 1. Let's take a vote. Who just won round 1? All right. Who's got Xavier? Unmute if you think Xavier just got round 1. Okay.
I'll give him one. I'll give him one because it seems like no one else will.
You'll give him 1. You know what? You know what? If I'm really thinking about it, I'll give him 2. I'll give him 2. All right, and unmute yourself or say something. Sorry, say something if you think Jacob just took round 1.
Jacob.
Yeah.
So it looks like Jacob wins 3-2 in the first round.
Did Jayden say anything?
He did. I saw him.
Okay, Jacob takes round 1. All right, Xavier, backs to the wall. You better have a pretty good stat right now.
All right. Another baseball take. Another Hall of Fame player named Wade Boggs ate chicken with every single meal before every single game for his entire 18-year career. And also another thing, he also woke up at the exact same time on every single game day for his 18-year career.
That sounds dangerously unhealthy and dangerously terrible. I would actually hate that. I mean, baseball is 80%. I play the sport. 80% mental, 20% skill. 20% skill. So maybe superstitions play a very key portion in that. So I can respect it. That is a pretty crazy stat. I want to know how you know that, but we'll get to that later, I guess. All right, Jacob, shoot.
All right. I don't know if this is much of a statistic kind of thing, more like a fact, but the 2015 Dallas Mavericks, I don't know if this is a known one. This may have been posted on ESPN for real at one point. But in 2015, the Dallas Mavericks had 3 point guards on their roster, Darren Williams, JJ Barea, and Raymond Felton. All were born on June 26th, 1984, which is also the name of the book that I'm currently reading in my English class. But yeah, 3 guys, all exact same birthday, triplets on the Mavericks.
In my opinion, round 2 goes to Jacob. Anybody else for Jacob? Anything else for Jacob?
Yeah, Jacob.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob sweeps.
Jacob just sweet. I think
Do
even
we want to
Xavier-
just go to the third one? Just like go to
Yeah,
the
I
third
think
one.
even Xavier just said Jacob.
Yeah, probably Jacob.
All right, Xavier, even though you're already down 2-0, maybe just take one. You know, give us your stat.
An MLB pitcher named Joe Niekro has 1 home run of his entire 22-year career, and the home run came off his older brother Phil.
So that actually might be.
Michael Jordan currently leads the league history with game-winning buzzer beaters at 9. Second is Kobe Bryant. However, tied with Kobe Bryant with 8 is neither guys like LeBron or Dwayne Wade or like Stephen Curry or whatever. It is Hawks legend Joe Johnson ahead of, those names that I just said. That's my third fact. I don't know if it lives up to the Mavericks one, but there we go.
All right, who's got Xavier? Me personally, I got Xavier.
I got Xavier.
That's 2.
Rare Xavier vote.
Rare Xavier. All right, that's 3. And who has Jacob?
I'll get Jacob.
I got
Yo,
Jacob
Jayden
too.
Jayden has been hating on me every single take.
All right,
If I have
Xavier.
myself on this one.
I'll see you in school, Jayden. I'll see you in school.
Ooh, Xavier takes
All
round
right, so we will be keeping track right now. The record is 1 win versus the field has 2.
Yes. All right. Well, I think this has been a very good episode, and I would like to wrap it up with a question that I got from a viewer. Remember, first off, this viewer, he had great things to say about the podcast, which I hope everybody listening has equally great things to say about this podcast as well. So for the record, this is being recorded at 11:30 at night for those of us on the Eastern Coast. So if it hasn't been up to par, please forgive us. This viewer had a question related to the NBA. So Jacob, Jayden, this is for you guys. The 90s were brought up in the last podcast. This viewer had a question of, are we done with the physicality and the style of play from the 90s?
Well, I can start off if no one else has anything. I think that's low-key a loaded question. I think there's a lot of ways I could take it. I think, like, if I took it literally, like, a lot of the rules are definitely very different with, there's no more hand checking. There's a lot more, I mean, you can argue there's a lot of rules that, quote unquote, favor the offense. So I guess my simple answer is yes. I think the biggest way we've probably shifted away from the 90s is probably just offensive style of play. We touched on it a little bit with, the three-point revolution. But even now, we're in the 2020s now, and pretty soon, I guess the 30s or whatever, we're seeing, guys like Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren are probably starting this new age where, like, it literally does not matter what position you play, everyone's going to be shooting, dribbling, passing, in that sense. So I think the traditional 90s sense of offense that we see a lot of, back to the basket, gritty defense, games where we're scoring the 80s and 90s in terms of points per game. That's probably the biggest way we've left the 90s. So I'd say, yeah, we're done with the 90s.
Anybody else?
I agree. We're done with the 90s. LeBron's the GOAT.
Oh,
Okay.
No. Okay. Listen, we're running out of time.
Oh, here we go.
No.
Here we go.
We're running out of time on this episode. So I'm gonna
LeBron's
wrap
not
it
the
up
GOAT.
right here.
LeBron's not the GOAT.
I'm gonna
Beautiful
wrap
thing,
it up
LeBron
right
is the
here.
GOAT.
Guys, next episode. We're running out of
I'm
time.
gonna wrap it up. I'm
More
gonna wrap it up.
finals losses than finals wins. I don't care.
Michael
Mute them.
Jordan
Please mute
has
them. I need to wrap it up.
a
We're running
disabled
out
kid
of-
has a better left hand than Michael
Sweat.
Jordan.
3-1 comeback.
Swept
3-1
twice in the
comeback.
finals.
3-1 comeback.
Jaden,
3-1 comeback.
Jaden, mute them,
3-1
please.
comeback. 3-1 comeback.
Jaden, mute them,
Bye-bye.
please.
Swept
Okay, I'm
twice. He was
trying to end
swept
the
twice.
episode.
He was swept.
We're running out of time. We will pick this up in the next episode, and we might have a guest appearance on the next episode from one of our very close friends to be remain nameless until the next episode. To recap, to that fan who asked the question, we are done with the 90s. Send us away, Colin.
All right. Well, first I'd like to say thank you for tuning in today. Make sure you follow us on Instagram. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. If TikTok's still around, make sure to follow. Give us good review on Spotify podcast, all that. We keep you updated. You keep us updated. You got to stay locked in, linked in with our whole family here. And have a nice day. Have a nice morning and night, wherever it is. And that's all we got for you.
Let's go.
Twice.
Against the super
Swept
team,
twice.
best team in the
Swept twice.
best team of all time. Best team of all
Mickey
time.
Mouse bubble ring. Mickey
Jaden,
Mouse
can you
bubble
Best team
ring.
of all time.
Mickey
KD,
Mouse
Curry,
bubble
Klay
ring.
Thompson,
Jaden,
Draymond
Ray
Green.
Allen. Ray Allen.
Hold
Ray
up,
Allen.
hold
Jaden,
up.
Kyrie Irving.
I
Kyrie
don't know
Irving.
why you're just
Kyrie
saying
Your
this.
Irving.
Chicago Bulls are
fan,
not
bro.
touching the Golden State Warriors in 2018. Your Chicago Bulls are touching nowhere near the 2018
Who are you
Golden State
raising to?
Warriors.
No one's defending Jordan here. We're just trying to end. the
I'm not a
episode.
Chicago Bulls fan.
Jordan's getting swept.
we are
Jordan's
out
getting
of
No,
time.
swept.
no. Michael Jordan.
Steve
Check the
Kerr's
averages.
better than
Jordan,
Michael
check
Jordan.
the averages.
Wait, remember when Jordan lost to Larry
Remember
Bird?
remember
like,
remember
two
when
straight
you
No.
games in the first
Hey,
round?
remember when
Jordan
LeBron
lost
has
in the
more
first round?
finals losses
Remember
than
when Jordan
finals
lost in the
wins?
first round?
Remember when
Remember-
Jordan lost the finals? Oh wait, he didn't.